So I've been here two other times. This is my third time, and I wanted to share something that I found on the internet. I actually shared it in my community tab, but I did want to share a little bit more. Um, and I kind of just stopped randomly because I noticed my comment section was kind of dying. I think it's because I was playing music in the last live. And so in this live, I'm going to be sharing from a video called "White Man Might Lose His Life for Teaching This Forbidden History." Of his community. What up, Miss Tam? Hey, I'm seeing you again. What up? But yeah, this white person is breaking silence on the white community and how they're moving, and it's really exciting. Cause let's be real, when do we get to hear from white people saying what's real? So I'm gonna just start it randomly as fuck in the middle, just because he said a lot of things, and yeah, but I wanna get to the part where he basically talks about white supremacy being very uh just not working. So again, I'm starting it in a random part and I hope you appreciate.
Had quarantine systems that prevented such massive outbreaks. White people love to claim that they invented modern science, but they ignored real science from smarter civilizations while they advanced medicine and technology. Europeans were the last major civilization to believe in magic and witches. Over 60,000 women in Europe were burned as witches between the 15th and 18th centuries. Meanwhile, in the Islamic world, Asia, and Africa, supernatural beliefs were often tied to philosophy and medicine, not mass hysteria. White Americans continued the stupidity with the Salem witch trials in 1692, proving their obsession with nonsense lasted well into the modern times. Europeans also had some of the most ridiculous religious beliefs. The Catholic Church taught that the sun revolved around the earth until the 1600s, forcing scientists like Galileo to denounce facts. Europeans believed that kings were chosen by God, which is how they let inbred, drooling monarchs rule them for centuries. Meanwhile, Islamic, Chinese, and indigenous societies emphasized astrology, engineering, and medicine centuries before Europeans figured out how to use soap. White people
Please share.
loved to laugh at other cultures' spiritual beliefs, but they were the last to let go of absurd, unscientific nonsense. White societies have collapsed due to their own idiocy several times. Medieval Europe regressed for 1,000 years after the fall of Rome, forgetting how to build aqueducts, roads, and medicine that previous civilizations had already mastered. White American farmers caused the Dust Bowl in the 1930s by over-farming and destroying their own soil, leading to mass starvation and migration. And white people keep making the same mistakes. Climate change, white conservatives still deny basic science despite the world literally burning. Mass shootings, white Americans refuse to change gun laws even as their kids continue to get killed in schools. Economic crashes, white bankers cause financial collapse every decade, from the Great Depression to the 2008 crisis. White societies always act shocked when their dumb decisions backfire, and then do the exact same thing. White Americans love electing leaders who can barely form a sentence. Donald Trump, a failed businessman who scammed his way into office and thought that injecting bleach cured COVID. George W. Bush started a war over fake weapons and couldn't pronounce the word nuclear. Ronald Reagan, a washed-up actor who let corporations ruin the economy. And European history is full of brain-dead monarchs. King Charles II of Spain was so inbred he could not chew food properly. King George III of England was so mentally unstable he talked to trees. The Russian czars were so incompetent they let their empire fall
I'm gonna
twice.
pause the video and share it in my community tab. So if you don't want to hang out here anymore and watch it with us, that's okay. That makes sense. Like if you want to watch it yourself, there is a new post on the community tab. So if you go into my channel and look at posts, I just posted it. And as I said, I started it in the middle. This video is 35 minutes long. I'm going to keep going, but I'm not going to finish the video. I do want to encourage y'all to watch it and be able to share it on your own. There's also another video that I feel like really gave me a lot. And it was basically a skinhead being candid about how American Nazism unfolds. And it was very wild to hear. Like, I did not know what it takes to be like jumped into the KKK, mainly because I didn't know that to get into the KKK, they beat you up. Like, I did not know like how much like degradation and hazing goes into it. And it very much sounds like a fraternity plus like a trauma bond. It's very fascinating. And again, if anybody is triggered by white supremacy or just doesn't want to hear a skinhead talk about how they operate, I hear you. But I do think it's important information because what I'm learning is that white people basically trick other white people into thinking that there's an identity called white and then make them fight for this hegemony when the more research I do, like whiteness is like quite new in that like the idea of whiteness like wasn't always there. Like people would just say where they were from. They wouldn't say they were white. And so again, like the creation of whiteness, like the whole function of it is basically to harm um people of color and to basically create a block of people that all are assuming that they're a part of whiteness because they have this phenotype, that phenotype, and then the ways that like you can behave white. So again, I'm gonna press play, let this play for probably another 5 minutes, and then we're gonna go to the second video. But this video just got shared.
Meanwhile, African, Asian, and Middle Eastern civilizations have produced mathematical geniuses, military strategists, and engineers, while white people kept electing fools. White Americans constantly misinterpret race, crime, and history. They blame immigrants for crime, despite white Americans committing the most mass shootings. They think they're oppressed while controlling most of the wealth and political power. They believe in conspiracy theories at higher rates than any other group, from
I'm
QAnon
with
to
you.
anti-vax nonsense. White conservatives deny science when it doesn't
That's a
fit
good
their
idea, Charlie.
worldview.
I appreciate you for
They
bringing that
claim
up.
climate change isn't real, despite every scientist proving otherwise. They believe COVID was a hoax, even as millions of their own people died. They deny evolution, despite mountains of fossil evidence. White societies act like they value intelligence, but they fall for the dumbest lies and propaganda every single time. White people struggle with basic emotional intelligence. White men have the highest suicide rates because they don't know how to process emotions. White families are often distant and lack deep connection, leading to higher rates of depression and loneliness. White Americans are more likely to cut off family members over political disagreements, proving they lack basic social resilience. Meanwhile, non-white cultures prioritize emotional intelligence and social bonds. Black, Latino, and Asian family tend to have stronger communal ties and mental health coping mechanisms. African cultures have long-standing traditions of community care, while white societies force elderly people into nursing homes. White people struggle with forming deep
No, I definitely need a
relationships,
lot of help,
making them
Charlie.
emotionally
And you've been
immature
hella
and socially
flexible with
inept.
me. Thank you for that.
Every time white people face a social or political change, they have a meltdown. White Southerners refuse to accept the end of slavery. To this day, white conservatives lost their minds over civil rights, literally fighting desegregation and interracial marriage. Today, white Americans panic over woke culture because they can't handle basic inclusivity. Meanwhile, non-white cultures have adapted and thrived through colonization and war. African and indigenous communities rebuilt themselves.
I love you too.
After
Thank you for being kind to me
centuries of white
always.
destruction. Asian economies rebounded after white imperialism and became global leaders in innovation.
Billy Kimber.
Latino communities have preserved cultural traditions despite white attempts at erasure. White societies break down at the smallest inconvenience, proving that they're emotionally and intellectually fragile. White supremacy is built on the lie of white intelligence. But history and reality prove that white people have always been and continue to be the dumbest people on the planet. Cope.
He really ate white people up, didn't he? Look, and we're not stopping there. We're not stopping there. Again, I only played a little bit of that video. There's more, but we must move along. Now, this video, I am so grateful for it because this video really had me thinking about how white people get other white people to be invested in whiteness. And again, I don't think about this very often, but I'm grateful for this skinhead. He used to be a skinhead. I'm so proud of him that he's no longer a skinhead and that he thinks that it's important to share what he's done and how he's contributed to anti-blackness. I love that. I love when white people say, "Hey, yeah, I'm a part of like this group. We were being anti-black." Like thank God that like at some point he realized like emotional intelligence actually is like it's clear that he has you know, again, I know not everybody is going to appreciate the content, and that's actually quite okay. I don't think that everything that I share is going to be for everybody, and I'm okay with that. But with that being said, I need to just go to my account and find the playlist or the clip that I sent. My bad for being ill prepared. I'm kind of awful at my history tab. It just feels like it doesn't go deep enough, and somehow I lost that video about that skinhead, which is really annoying. But actually, it's on Threads, so give me a minute. I'm gonna go on Threads. Also, I love Threads so much. I don't know if anybody fucking cares. I don't know if anybody cares about Threads, but I've been loving it on there. It is wild. Wild times, yo. Elon, exactly. Edgar, I just want you to know the word dumb, it's ableist, and we don't need to use it. We don't need to use it. Why would I wish to be white? Honestly, truly, let this person stay for a second. John D., why do you think I would wish to be white? Tell me more. What do you think about whiteness is worth wanting? Listen, I ain't mad at you, Trilly. You don't have to undo that. You can leave it. But sometimes I just love to ask the racist, like, what do you really think? Like, you really be believing this shit? For real? I'm sorry. I just sometimes I'd be like, for real? Like, genuinely? Anyways, so as I was saying, this video is a U.S. neo-Nazi who was not just a white nationalist, he was also a recruiter for the Klan. So I just want to put that out there right now that like this man helped multiple parts of racist organizations thrive. And so I'm not trying to celebrate him for real. I'm just trying to be candid that like he has information that I think we can be using to just, again, know more. For anybody that's upset about what I'm sharing, suffer. Suffer. Anyways, moving on.
My name is Arnold Michaelis. I was a white nationalist skinhead, a lead singer in a neo-Nazi metal band. This is everything I'm authorized to tell you.
Now pause. Everything he's authorized to tell. I think that that's a fascinating thing. I'm not going to sit with this for too long, but that's something I wasn't considering, that there's more. Like, and that's the other scary part about this is like for there to be more and for him to have shared as much as he did. Whew. But I did read the comments in the video, and I'm actually, before I go any further, I'm going to share this in a post so that if people don't want to hear me talk about it, they can watch it on their own. But yeah, it's called How U.S. Neo-Nazism Actually Works. Authorized account by Insider. So with that being said, him saying that he's authorized to say it really makes me wonder what's going on with the FBI, CIA. You feel me? Listen, if anybody white is mad, I need y'all to know that it's important for y'all to feel your feelings. Being angry, it's information. Being mad, that tells you something's happening. When we're feeling worked up, that's telling you something is happening, babe. Listen, I want y'all to just sit with the reality that whiteness is not real. You have been tricked. And I'm sorry that you don't have enough empathy or respect for non-white people to hear new information from someone that looks like me, but it's the truth. And so, if you want to keep kicking it here, you're going to have respect. If you're not going to have respect, you gotta dip. Because you're not about to talk to me crazy in my house. It's just not going to go like that. So, with that being said, if you're feeling a type of way, that's fine. Like, I need y'all to know, like, it's actually okay to be mad. I'd be mad too. Like, imagine someone lying to you about being better than other people. Imagine thinking that Trump was only going to harm non-white people. I'd be upset as well. I understand that I'll never understand what it's like to be white. But if you're hurt and you're angry, I hope you know that it's okay to sit there and feel that shit. Don't just say, I'm hurt, I'm angry. Feel it. Let it sit inside you. That's okay. Over the edge, you could absolutely please hit me up. I think my email is like on my channel, but yeah, reach out. I actually got hit up to be in a zine, which is really exciting. You found the book. They Were Her Property by Stephanie E. Jones. Thank you. You know what? I think that might be a good book to listen to on audiobook every now and then. I don't know how y'all feel about an audiobook listening, but maybe not a whole chapter, maybe a piece. But who knows? You're in my home right now. Have some respect. Damn, I got you chancletas. I got you an icy. Damn, John. I'm crying that John made another account just to call himself the same name. That's funny as hell. Damn, he is everywhere. That is terrifying. He is really popping up. Anyways, so like I said, this video is about neo-Nazism, and this video really shared a lot. It's 51 minutes. We're not watching 51 minutes of it. I feel like I got about 11 minutes of this one, so let's get in.
The most formative years of my life, I was just immersed in this hate and violence. I was actually at a neo-Nazi rally in Michigan where about 50 of us sprawled with like 500 anti-fascists, and there were all too many times when we would jump people and just beat the hell out of them. I've done a lot of harm to innocent people and to society.
Hey, Johnny.
And I need to be accountable for that harm.
He being real.
What attracted me to neo-Nazi ideology initially was really the hero story. I grew up being a big fan of fantasy and mythology. I was really into Greek myths and Norse myths as a kid. The mythology of Nazi ideology, going back to Adolf Hitler, was that we are these Aryan supermen, the brightest of all creation, that are under assault by these dark, evil hordes. And here we are fighting back against them, against incredible odds, but with incredible strength. It was very much the same kind of mystique that you would find in a Lord of the Rings movie or a Conan book. And for me, this was like my chance to actually be that hero on this noble quest.
I'm smoking
and then
the
as I
strain
got
Billy
more
Kimber.
into it and took in more and more of the ideology, a lot of that ideology was about like, look how evil and horrible they are, and look how good and noble my people are. Look at all these great things we have done despite all the challenges and despite being under assault by everybody else. There was actually a music distribution outfit in Chicago called Romantic Violence. And those two words sum up the entire ideology better than anything I could say at length. There's a romance to it. It makes you feel like you're a hero and you're doing something good for your people. As you get further into the ideology, it's all about pseudoscience, about how whites are superior to everybody else, all kinds of nonsense about the size of our brains and IQ. And then, of course, all of this is deeply rooted in anti-Semitism. The entire ideology is based on seeing Jews as the root of all evil on the planet Earth. That's the core of the neo-Nazi belief, is that the white race is this, first of all, it exists. You have to have some kind of idea of who's white and who's not. And again, that was never firmly established by anything. I remember meeting Italian skinhead. There was one crew that their leader was an Armenian guy who looked like he was, straight out of Iraq or something. And I said, "What are you, Italian?" He's like, "Oh, I'm Armenian. Hitler had Armenian SS units." And I was like, all right, well, if it was good enough for Hitler, it's good enough for me. The most damaging aspect of the neo-Nazi ideology is definitely the fear. Anybody who does look like you and doesn't think like you, they're not only an enemy, they're the highest order of enemy. They're a race traitor. So it's this experience of going through every waking moment of your day, thinking that everyone else in the world is not only out to kill you personally, but out to destroy everyone who looks like you. And it's a miserable way to live that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy.
I'm smoking Billy Kimber. It's my first time smoking it. The Leafly review says that it's good for people who have smoked a lot of weed and can handle high strains or higher THC content. It's a bad bitch. I can't lie. It's very indica. I'm gonna sleep good tonight. I'm actually really excited. I've got a few more minutes of this to play. Like I said, I'm down to play 11 minutes of it, and we're only 4 minutes in. So we got a couple more minutes. Got 7 more minutes.
I tattooed a swastika on my own leg, which I've since had covered up. I had a swastika on my middle finger for a time, cleverly, so I could show it to someone before I hit them. The other symbolism we used, there was any kind of Norse ruin. Just like Hitler did, we co-opted the Norse folk religion and kind of made it into this white nationalist thing, which is, along with pretty much everything else in the ideology, is incredibly historically inaccurate, because the Vikings really, they killed people who look like them, and they had peaceful trade and diplomatic relationships with North Africa and the Middle East. There's a lot of lingo to neo-Nazi movement. The first one I learned was 88. When I met the Chicago skinhead crew, a lot of them had sports jerseys on that had 88 as the number. The 8th letter of the alphabet is H. So 88 means Heil Hitler. So it's code for Heil Hitler. In the mid-'80s, there was a really dangerous militant white nationalist terror group called the Order, or the Bruderschweigen, and they assassinated a Jewish talk show host. They were doing all kinds of things to fund a race war before they were ultimately taken down. But one of the members of the Order, who was in prison for life and unrepentant, he decided we needed some sort of slogan, some catchy mantra that the movement could use to unite us and inspire us. So he came up with...
If anybody wants to watch this video, it's shared. I shared it on my channel in a post. If you don't want to go on my channel and watch it from there, you can type in how US neo-Nazism actually works. And the channel is called Insider. This was posted 6 days ago, so it's a recent video. And this is a neo-Nazi who is breaking silence. Here's my thing. I'm just sitting here this shit is so wild. I already watched this video before, but I feel like I have ADHD, so I only probably heard 30% of it. But listening to it back, I'm like, damn, I've seen 88 a lot, bitch. I'm actually kind of shook. I feel like I've seen a lot of covert Nazis. Yikes.
The 14 words, which are, we must secure the existence of our race and a future for white children. So to this day, if you're looking at a social media handle, if you see the numbers 14 and 88, that's a good indicator that it's a white nationalist account. There were ways to identify as either a white power or an anti-racist skinhead, and it was typically involved the color of the laces in your boots and or the color of your braces that you wore. If you were a neo-Nazi, you have red laces, red braces. Anti-racist skinheads would sometimes wear white laces, although some people would say white laces are white pride, so they'd wear like yellow laces or anything but the red laces. And then, of course, beyond that, obviously, if you see someone with a swastika patch, a white power skinhead's typically going to have outright white supremacist symbols all over their body and tattoos and or patches on a jacket, whereas the anti-racist skinheads would also have like anti-fascist patches and things like that. Hammerskin Nation began in the southern United States, specifically Dallas, Texas. There was a skinhead gang in Dallas who took the crossed hammers from Pink Floyd The Wall, and they put them in front of a Confederate flag.
Yes, the two lightning bolts and the black sun. Really I never knew about the black sun.
And they said, they just called themselves, we're the Hammerskins. This was right about the same time that my gang in Milwaukee was starting. In 1988, one of the lead members of the Confederate Hammerskins in Dallas, Texas, came up to Milwaukee, and he pitched the idea to us that we become Northern Hammer Skinheads. And the Hammerskins were born. Despite the hypocrisy of using a symbol from a band that considers themselves very anti-fascist, we had no problem appropriating that crossed hammer logo. And in our case, we put it on a field of U.S. flag blue with 13 stars around the hammers to signify the Northern Hammerskins. And very shortly afterwards, there were Northern Hammer chapters in Chicago and St. Paul and Detroit and Ohio. And while this was happening, there were more Confederate Hammerskin groups popping up all over the South. Now, down south, there was a lot of crossover between the Ku Klux Klan and the Hammerskins. There was a lot of like old school Klansmen who were very happy to see this wellspring of youth coming into their movement, and they were okay to stomach the tattoos and the punk rock music in the process. So there were a number of Confederate Hammer skinheads who were also members of Ku Klux Klan groups at the time. When I was involved in Hammerskin Nation, there was really no centralized command. Every group.
I'm gonna be real with you. This part of the movie fucks me up, or this content, because he actually goes into like how like they break people to get into the group, and bitch,
operated individually. It was really just, well, we use the same symbol. We're all racist anti-Semites. We're all violent drunks. We all love this music. And those were the real unifying factors behind it. As I was leaving, people started having titles, and there started to be an attempt at having some sort of structure about how the group was going to work. And to varying degrees, that was followed as Hammerskin Nation spread to Europe, to Australia, to New Zealand, even to Argentina and South Africa. In our group in Milwaukee, we didn't have any kind of official structure. We didn't have titles. We had just unofficial kind of organic hierarchy, the same way a wolf pack would. There's certainly alphas, and they certainly run things, but they're not voted. They don't have titles. That's just how it is. I wasn't the sole alpha leader. I was one of a number. We weren't really conscious of this. It was
saying that they were like listening to punk rock, but like a lot of them liked classic rock and other shit. But like the older people were like, "Fuck it, we'll still listen to their music."
Just kind of how it went. If we were going to make a decision about something, it would be me and the other alphas talking about it. And once we decided on whatever that was, that's how it was. And everybody else could follow along, or they could get the hell out. That was basically how things worked. I don't know that Hammerskin Nation is as much of a thing as it used to be. There are groups like the Proud Boys. At their peak, the Proud Boys were like the modern manifestation of Hammerskin Nation, even though there was very significant differences, namely that the Proud Boys' official leader was a Latino man, and that would have never happened in Hammerskin Nation. But other than that, they were a street brawling, kind of street fighter oriented group. And I think a lot of Hammerskin Nation people, if they didn't grow out of it, which most of them do, honestly, they may have found themselves affiliated with groups like the Proud Boys.
This is the part that's going to fuck you up.
Recruiting a neo-Nazi was 2 steps, basically. The first step was to get this kid to identify as white. Typically, if I have an archetype called Joe Pissed Off White Kid. If I'm talking to Joe Pissed Off White Kid, the first thing I have to do is convince him that he's a white man. And that's how he should identify himself. In the late 80s, most people racialized as white didn't identify themselves as white. If I asked Joe who he was, he would say, I'm American. My family's Catholic. We're Democrats or Republicans, whatever. There's going to be all sorts of ways that they identify themselves other than racially. So I have to stop him in his tracks and be like, listen, white man, whether you like it or not, the enemies of our people identify you as white. You don't have a choice about that. And the white race is under attack. If you don't join us and fight back, we're all going to be wiped out. I have to get that across to this kid, and he has to buy into it before I can proceed to step 2, which is to make him feel persecuted because he's white. In the late 80s, it was much more difficult to do that than it is today. In the late 80s, we didn't have all this talk of white privilege and white fragility and open talk saying, well, everything wrong with the world is basically white people's fault. Back in the 80s, it was just much more amorphous. We're all human beings. We have all these different ways of identifying ourselves. It wasn't like codified into racial groups like it is today. So I had to concoct things about how white people are oppressed. And once I could get him to buy into that he is white and he's oppressed because of it, now he's a white nationalist. Now he's a neo-Nazi. Now he's ready to come up to our drinking hall, get drunk with us, and get beat up. Though that was the recruitment process that we went through back in the day. If you're a teenager who has a history of trauma in your family, if you're living in poverty, if whatever you have going wrong, the more things wrong you have, the more openings there are for neo-Nazi ideology to take hold. And so that was how we recruited these kids, was we blamed all their problems on Jews. And then they said, if you join us, we're going to fight back against that. And we're going to take our country back and take our lands back and everything. And you'll have all sorts of women crawling all over you. You'll be a white warrior. It'll be great. If you were a new guy in the crew, you needed to prove yourself and prove that you could hang with us. And the first way to do that would be by wrestling with us in our wherever we're drinking.
Now, this is where it gets homoerotic for me. Because why are y'all getting drunk and beating each other up? The next part of this is just kind of wow, imagine getting drunk with somebody and getting your ass beat, and that's the initiation. Again, it's the way that subconsciously all these people are in pain and they're seeking out more of it. And so this place offers them acceptance in the pain they already feel. It's damn. But it is pretty gay. As a gay bitch, I'm gonna be real with you. There's something very gay about a bunch of dudes in a room, a bunch of boys in a room drunk, fighting. I'm sorry. Why are y'all wrestling in the room? Why are y'all wrestling in the room drunk? I'm sorry. There's just something about it that's just very homoerotic for me. And this is not me trying to be homophobic. This is me trying to just acknowledge a lot of these men clearly wanted touch. Let's talk about it. They clearly wanted to escape. Getting drunk and fighting? Come on.
If you can't handle that, which many people couldn't, there were a lot of guys who would be there for one night. They'd get the snot knocked out of them. They're okay, I'm done with this. They wouldn't come back. But for the guys who did come back, and they're yeah, let's do that again. That was fun. Okay, now we know this is a viable candidate here. And again, this was very organic, and it just happened. It wasn't a policy. It wasn't something, oh, hey, congratulations for surviving, getting your kicked last night. You're in. It was more okay, if you like that, then let's do more of it. If you don't like it, get the hell out. The bulk of our recruits were men. It's interesting now because I work at Parents for Peace and we address all sorts of violent extremism.
Not I work at Parents for Peace. Sweetie. Sweetie. White people can have so many lives, bitch. I gotta bump that back.
Oh, the bulk of our recruits were men. It's interesting now because I work at Parents for Peace and we address all sorts of violent extremism. And there is a specific type of violent extremism called incel nowadays, which are men who call themselves involuntarily celibate. And they're angry because they don't have girlfriends. In my day, as in today, the typical number one complaint for Joe Pissed Off White Kid is he doesn't have a girlfriend and he's angry about it. The thing is that there were women in our movement, but it was at least seven.
We're not saying that they're gay genuinely. We're saying that there's a homoeroticism at play because it's not like they're fucking wrestling with women and beating women up. Like they're fighting with like it's like that's the closest form of intimacy they can get is grappling. Like let's be real, it's grappling. Like they're grappling.
7 or 8 to 1 as far as men to women ratio went. So there weren't a lot of women to go around. And typically the few women that were involved in the movement were all with the alpha guys. So the alpha guys all had hot girlfriends, and Joe Pissed Off White Kid sees this and he's not doing the math, and he's like, well, that's what I want. So I'm going to do what this guy says because then I'll get that too. Never mind that there's not a whole lot of women out there. I actually had one guy in my crew who dipped his toes in and left. When I was interviewing him for my book, I said, well, why did you leave? And he's like, dude, it's really hard to get laid when you're neo-Nazi. Like, chicks aren't into that, man. That's not attractive. And that was his big motivator to leave. He's like, I wanted girls, man, and they're not into that. So that dynamic was really front and center in our recruiting and really in everything that happened in that group.
I'm gonna stop it here because I feel like even the way he was laughing about these men being like, man, there's no women, and that's funny to him. And it's like, sweetie, like again, I feel like his reaction in that segment was very much giving like these young men don't realize that I'm going to take advantage of them. Like I feel like that's the layer for me. Because this is like yeah, like I feel like not even just aroused, he was delighted. And this is retrospect. Keep this in mind. Like he's working for Parents for Peace and he's laughing about how like these young people exactly, it sounds very predatory. And again, it's the way that like he doesn't have to like the fact that he's doing this, he's making this content, like again, it's giving like redemption arc. It's giving and I live to tell the tale. It's giving I did something really fucked up to people and like because I'm breaking silence about something people really want to hear about, I get to again, this is just where I'm coming from. Like other people may not agree, but I just feel like personally, like when you talk about things you did that were fucked up, when you're talking about it, like people can kind of tell the spirit, like, and so there's moments where like I'll watch old content and I'm talking about doing something really fucked up to somebody and I'm like laughing, like clearly my emotional intelligence was very fucking low in that moment. Like it's very obvious. Like I don't have to tell anyone that, especially if they are aware of that. So with that being said, like sometimes you can really hear that someone didn't give a fuck that they did what they did, and that it's really just content. It's just something to say. It's not a connection that they're making that like how you speak on this could be impacting the people that are your victims that are hearing this. I personally feel like reform includes intention. And so he definitely got paid for this. Let's be real. But not only did he definitely get paid, he also is laughing. So again, like laughing at this situation, it's not funny. Like we've made jokes in here, but at the expense of him. Like we're not laughing about what he's all done. Again, we just have to consider like how we're talking about things because sometimes like we're not all saying this, we're not all hearing the same thing. I'll say that. Sometimes people are being quite ugly and we cannot always hear that. Like sometimes we really can't hear it because maybe the way they're talking. Like again, the way he's laughing, he wants us to laugh too. Like he wants us to think it's funny what he did. Like that's what, and again, even if he doesn't want us to think it's funny, he wants to nervously laugh to break the fucking anxiety inside of himself. But again, like you're recounting being a fucking neo-Nazi in the middle of a Trump presidency where we're losing so many rights. This might have been funny if Kamala was president. It might have been comical. We might have been able to have a haha. Unfortunately, this shit is feeling like a goddamn Elder Scroll. This shit is feeling like fucking vital information to not get dead out here. So again, the laughter, it's not funny. We're just not in the climate to laugh at everything. And I also was thinking about how there's so many people right now that want to laugh so fucking bad, like they'll make anything a joke. And there's moments where I'm just like, I know like laughter can be a weapon, but a lot of times it can just be a derailment tactic, you know, from like feeling our feelings. When we're laughing, we're not like again, not every laughter, not every haha is real. Like that's something to just consider. Like not every laugh is like we're actually feeling silliness and glee. So yeah, yeah, exactly. And again, I just think that like him not acknowledging that these like again, even the way he talks about how these men left because they wanted women, they wanted to have a sexual experience. What up, Purple? It's kind of just like, okay, so you're aware that these are straight men and you're like getting drunk with them and beating them up. Like, I don't believe for 1 minute that like that's all it was. Like, I'm sure there was some homoerotic shit happening. And again, it's not to be shady towards gay folk. Like, I'm gay folk. What the fuck? It's to acknowledge that like there's folks in the closet, there's folks that are like unwilling to share their true sexuality. Like there's a lot more gay people than we'll ever know because of homophobia. I just hope y'all know that. Like there's more trans people than we'll ever fucking know because of transphobia. Like keep that in mind. Like because of capitalism, there's more people that like have things to share with us that will just die because they don't have it. So I just want to put that out there. Like there's going to be people impacted by systems of harm and who we get to see and who we get to hear from. And if this man is gay, he's not about to tell us that because I feel like that would change the conversation a bit. Two bigots. For me, it's more that like I don't know that his sexuality is necessarily important, but again, it's the way that like some queer people are so in the closet and so afraid and so ashamed that they will do things to kind of reinforce their straightness. And unfortunately for men, especially white men, straightness is violence. And so there are a lot of white men and a lot of men in general who will beat you up to show you that they're a man, to show you that they're dangerous, to show you to respect them, and not realizing that respect is built through trust, communication, friendship, vulnerability, you know? So again, it's the way that this man is behaving that has me like, I would not be surprised if some people popped out and said that he was sexually assaulting them as well as an elder in the group. Because again, it's the way that like men are victims of men. Like men, like again, it's the way that because of patriarchy, we will never know how many men are sexually abused. But I need you to know I have met so many men that have trusted me enough to say, I have been touched. And it sucks because it means that like they're like and 9 times out of 10 they told no one else. They're not, and I'm not trying to like say no names or like that, but it's like I've been in moments with men that broke silence and I'm just like, damn, like have you ever said anything about this? And they're like, no. They're like, who would I tell? And it's like, again, it's the way that like men feel even less comfortable than femmes to tell, and most femmes still don't tell. So exactly, to show that they're not gay, they'll do some overt harm. And so that's the other layer to this is like maybe he's not at that point of self-awareness where he's like, wow, I was doing all this because like he hasn't said why he was doing it, you know? Like he said he was indoctrinated, but he never said like really his motivation. Frank Ocean, but Tyler's dope too. Where Brian, I hear you. Again, I'm just trying to acknowledge that like I was never trying to be like making fun of anybody for being queer or like trying to make it seem like, oh, that's gay. It's more that like when people are gay or queer, like I am and some folks in the audience, we see our people. or we hear behavior that's sounding like you're trying to hide your true intention behind violence. Because again, the men that put their hands on women 9 times out of 10, they are doing that to reinforce that they're strong. Even though what they're really doing is showing that they are afraid of that woman. I wish that we would talk about that more. That when a man beats on a woman, he is so scared of her. He is so scared of her. He cannot communicate with her on her level. He cannot connect with her on her level. He has to be her. He has to make her afraid. That's the only dynamic he can be in with her. We have to talk about shit like this. We have to. Because it's the way that fear, like people in the comments are like, what is the fear? What is the fear? What is the fear? And that's the thing. It's like, where's the fear coming from? And again, it's the way that, white people don't even know. They don't even know why they're afraid. But I personally think it's more jealousy than fear. I think that fear is something to say that sounds good, but I think it sounds sadder. And I also think because of white supremacy, it sounds unbelievable. And I think that that's the worst part about it all is that like white people clearly are jealous of black people. The language that white people have been using, have employed since the beginning of creating their identity. Like, let's be clear. They saw black people and said, we're not that. And then made up lies. Like, let's be fucking clear. Like, let's be clear. Like, whiteness literally was created by the perception of blackness and comparison. That is all. They literally said, we not that. And then started making up lies to get people to think something else. And now we live in a digital community where we can see the lies in 24K, babe. And now that we can all see the lies together, well, sweetie, they're cutting the lights off. They're turning the lights off. They letting us get malarias and measles. Like, baby, it's the way that they're like, listen, like it's that scene in Chappelle's show where he's pretending to be Black Bush and then he just started knocking over everything on the table. Like, that's literally what's happening. It's all a distraction because, sweetie, like, I hate to say this. I'm not trying to be a fearmonger. But don't it give, like, extinction event? Like, don't it give, like, we about to just delete some of these people and start over with the new crop. Like, it's really giving, like, as long as we keep some of these people alive, that's all that matters. Like, it's really giving, if they live, they live. It's really giving that. True. Truly. And the way they got even more mad when black women started to adorn their head wraps and the way they started putting like flowers in there. Again, it's the way that like the more that I think about white supremacy, the more I realize like we really have to live in opposition of it. Like we really have to live and do the opposite. Like wherever, like the colonizer be wanting us to be in certain places. And so I pray you like figure out like where the colonizer wants you and you go far the fuck away. I pray wherever you figure out where the colonizer wants you to be, I pray you get away from there. Because it's something that we have to check in with ourselves about. Like, am I doing something that I want to do? Or am I doing something that I think I should be doing based on, my identities? Like, and I mean this for all the black women that are here. I know that there's been this rest movement and a lot of pushback, but I need you to know people are following your lead and the rest of us cannot rest. And that's the biggest issue is like black women set the stage, set the tone for everything. We all know this. And so with that being said, black women deciding like, we're good. We're going to rest. That's why the rest of us, let me not put that on black women, but the rest of us are actively showing how much we follow behind black women because the rest of us cannot rest. The rest of us simply cannot rest. It's not possible. It's not going to be real. And there's going to be black women that still think that they're going to, they're going to be the one that saves their community. And again, I'm not saying don't feel like that, but I've tried to tell a couple black women who are talking about how burned out they feel, I hope you're doing what you want to do. I hope you're not feeling like if I don't post this, if I don't do this, that I'm not doing enough. Like, y'all did so much. Like, black women went hard as fuck to try to, at least not have them cancel Medicaid. I don't know what all Kamala was going to do, but I have to believe that what Trump is doing, I'm never going to say Kamala was going to do that. But clearly, the powers that be, the powers that really own this shit, That's what they want. And so there's a part of me that wonders what it would have looked like to be shutting things down, to be, you know what I mean, to be gutting certain things, what it would have really looked like. Because the whole Biden presidency felt quiet. It felt like he was sick. And I mean that with no shade, but it felt like he really didn't know what to do as a president. And it felt like she was out here trying to just, do her thing. But it felt like a quiet 4 years. It almost felt like they wanted Trump to win low key, the way they were moving, or at least they didn't want to say how sick Biden was because then I think they thought it would have made Trump win faster. But I feel like the way that they moved made it. I'm not gonna play myself though. I know that it didn't really come down to the popular vote. Like let's not play ourselves, Let's not play ourselves. Cause if we want to go there, the popular vote never is why motherfuckers be winning. The powers that be want this shit to be different. They clearly want it to be very Christian. They clearly want polygamy back, sweetie. It's the way that people talk about the black community and multiple baby mamas and baby daddies, but it's the way that white people can have 35 kids. 35 babies, 15 moms. I haven't heard a damn thing. If anything, I've heard people like thinking it was funny. I haven't heard, no, the white community needs to do better. All of these fucking caravans of children. No, Elon's child count distresses me because it's like, whoa. I hope they got at least a milli. Like, that's all I could think is I pray you got at least a milli. And I know you did it. And the way Elon look. I just can't imagine Elon, like, taking off his clothes for real. Like, I mean, no shade, but Elon looked like he fuck you through a blanket. Like, no tea. Like, Elon looked like he got a blanket that he puts on and puts his dick through a hole. Swear. Like, I'm crying. I'm crying. Come through, Marty. You better give us all that. Yeah, no. Paul, I hope you have a good day. No, Nick Cannon and Future. No, like I literally don't have time. Like I literally just don't have time. Like I feel like my disgust with Future ended with Sierra. Like I just feel like I can't even feature him anymore. I feel like all that he's done to Baby Future Zaire, like baby, I'll never forget that Baby Future Zaire car seat was smelling like bunk and weed and backwoods. I'll never forget that. Like when that story leaked, I was like, you know what, Future, you're a real piece of shit. That's crazy. You make enough money to get a fucking nanny. Like, why the fuck is the baby smelling like bunk and blunts? Like, that is crazy. Like, people don't talk about it enough for me, but Future very deadbeat. Like, Future very Adam from Teen Mom. You know? Not Elon is handsome. I'm screaming. Look into it. Look into it. I don't know if it's scrubbed by now, but I remember the internet remembers. The internet remembers. Like he was neglecting the baby bitch. I think he had garguts in the baby car seat. It was crazy. It was real crazy. It got real messy. Like Future and Sierra's breakup was so sick. Like I'm so glad Future finally shut the fuck up. Grateful. Grateful because the way he would be talking about Sierra, like she was a whole married, all happy and shit. That was so sick to see. Elon? No. No, not Elon. And see, that's the thing. Like, I'm a whore. Like, I had actually fucked for money, and like, I just couldn't see it. Because for me, and I'm gonna keep it so fucking for real. If me and Elon ever were alone, sweetie, I'm doing quick attack. I'm a fucking Pokemon. Bitch, the way I'm lifting my belly, bitch, don't fuck that. I'm doing a titty sidewinder attack. I'm going like this with my titties. I'm bludgeoning him with my titties, bitch. He's dying. He's dying. I'm jumping. Me? Hundreds in the air, bitch. Me? An 18 wheeler? Yeah. Honestly, fuck that. I'm gonna wait till he's in the bed and I'm just gonna go like this and just roll all the way from the bottom to the top. I'm gonna make that motherfucking head pop off like dead ass. I'm rolling from the toe to the top of the motherfucking to the dome. And as soon as his head pop off, I'm leaving the room. Actually, no, I'm gonna roll him up like a blunt in the blanket. Yeah. And then I'm gonna find some way to get one of them carts from the hotel and put him in it. And then I'm gonna go get an outfit from housekeeping. I'm gonna be in a disguise. I'm gonna have to push my cart out with my Elon Blunt. And we're just gonna be done from there, and history's gonna be made, but I'm not gonna say shit. I'm gonna keep it to myself. But yeah. No, Elon could not even sniff the top of my coochie. Fuck the bottom. He couldn't even sniff my mound, bitch. Honestly, he couldn't even get a drop of sweat from underneath my fucking belly. Like from the top of the pussy under the belly area, he couldn't even get that moisture at all. No, he looks like throw up to me. Whenever I see him, sweetie, it's the way he looks like a Dementor. It's the way he looked like when Voldemort was just living on the side of a motherfucker head. It's the way he looked like like you honestly, like he don't even have like it's too many words I'm using. Like he looked like huh, like dead ass. Like he looked very afraid, very shook, very like all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like he looked very all of a sudden and no, there's something Mario mushroom about him. There's just something about him, and not the regular mushroom. I'm talking about them brown joints that are looking all creepy. I'm talking about those joints. Like he looks so ill. Like he literally is built like a cigarette. Listen, Elon is built like a cigarette that has just old yogurt on it. Like he looks gray. Like I've never seen a white person look gray before. Like that bitch is silver. I have never seen a silver white man before in my life, but he literally looks metallic. Like he looks chrome the fuck out, and I don't understand how he got platinum. I don't know, bitch. I don't get it. But yeah, no, Elon is disgusting. I just, yeah, I just wish I could fall on him. That's how I feel. I wish I could just fall on him one good time, bitch, and then just like really dig my elbow into him to get up, Just break that bitch like a Kit Kat right between his ribs. Bro, talk like I just wish I could just get one time with him. I would put him on me like a belt, bitch. I would literally go like just back up against the wall and just crack his ass up. His birth parents are actually inbred, unfortunately. Like that's what's even more tragic is like Elon not even like that on purpose. Like his family literally are creepy. Like and that's what's even the worst part about it is like there's a tiny part of me that because I was in the foster care system, I'll always feel slightly bad for abuse victims. Like even if they're really piece of shit ghouls, I'd be like, damn bitch, you might have been able to be saved if somebody stepped in. But Elon was fucked literally from birth because his mama done fucked his damn cousin. And so it's a lot. It's a lot. No, people keep saying he autistic, sweetie. No, I want y'all to look into like King King Louis of Spain. Look him up. Autism is not inbreeding. Like he is an inbred person. Unfortunately, he has his family been fucking for a long time with each other, and so that's why he looked like that. He part Pomeranian, part Shih Tzu on his grandpa's side, and got the same grandpa on both sides. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. You got the same grandpa on both sides. I feel like you're supposed to have two different grandpas, right? He only got one pop pop. Listen, the real shark, if you know the king I'm talking about, actually, bitch, I have a computer. I'm so fucking lazy. Inbred king, because y'all are making me actually cite sources. Fuck you. Charles. I knew it was one of those colonizer names. Louis, Charles, Leopold. You know how they be. It be the same three names, bitch. Charles, Leopold, Willie, William, Harrington, Rutherford, Struselton, Habsburg. He did. That's why it was fresh on my mind. I'm crying. Like all the fat joke. Like there has not been a good fat joke in so long. It's so tragic. I love to laugh as a fat bitch, and y'all just don't be moving me. Y'all just don't be moving me. Yo, I think I gotta go because my boyfriend literally is still sleeping, I think. And he need to go to work. All right, listen, I'm about to dip. I love y'all so much. Thank y'all for listening to me and hanging out and being social. Trilly, I'm gonna text you probably not tonight, but probably tomorrow. I need to work on the menu. Also, P.S. I did do a mutual aid request on my social on Instagram. My Instagram is FATBEEP. EEEP. Yeah, there's 3 E's. Fat Beep on Instagram for plant medicine, and then the same name on here on Instagram for just like me socially. And then I'm on Threads under the same name. Actually, I'm probably lying. No, yeah, I'm on Threads under the same name. And then there's also a Discord where we keep on trying to get a game night together, but it ain't working so far. But I'm gonna hit up Ryan because they actually own Jackbox. I don't know if anybody here has played Jackbox before, but it's a game. It's a game show where you're playing it live with your friends, and it's really fun, and you can play it with anyone online. So I love you guys. I hope you guys enjoy. Damn, don't worry about my lungs. I'm good. I love you. Bye. BB.